Hello, and welcome to my channel, Sharina Walters. Yeah, I'm gonna take this seatbelt off. Although I'm in a car, I'm stopped. I am not driving right now. I wanted to jump on because what's been on my mind, something I felt like I needed to relay is like, what was the biggest thing that I did and changed within myself that helped my relationship with my daughter, and then have it cross over to my everyday life. And what I have mentally noted that I won't do in my next relationship, romantic relationship. And that is yell, get super agitated when it's something that I don't want to hear, but I know need to be addressed. That's something that I've worked on for, I've really pretty much mastered it over the past, I would say since 2018. But really have done a better job, I would say, since 2020, since the pandemic. You know what? And I would say 2019. Because what I didn't want to do with my daughter is do the thing that made her become withdrawn from me. Like, she'll withdraw if I just yell, or can't really seem to listen, get super defensive. Is it something that she tell me that's on her heart? And that was really before our mother-daughter journey that I used to get really upset, because the mother-daughter journey started really like 2016. And we both went through a lot of different growing pains. We went through a lot of different changes, in a good way. It wasn't so good when we were going through it. It was pretty challenging, but I realized that I can see why a lot of parents don't apologize, because you can easily say, dang, man, my intentions were good. I didn't mean it that way. And it could still have hurt the child, even though your intentions were good. Because let's say you were like, you know what, I don't really want to spank my child like I used to get spanked. I ain't gonna say a spanking, I'm gonna say beat. So my daughter barely got any type of whippings. I think maybe 2 or 3, really just 2 that I can think of in her whole entire life. I might have jacked her up maybe once or twice, but I never beat her down because I never wanted her to experience that. Which they say, you know, you spare the rod, you spoil the child. But there's still a different way. Everyone is different. Not everyone needs a belt laid to their behind. There's other alternatives you can do and implement to show corrective action, if that's the right term. But it was me changing how I respond. It was me changing the way that I respond. I remember the day that she was in the kitchen, and I was like, hey, I'm here to help you through this healing process, and I'm giving you the freedom to say and respect how you feel about things that I didn't do properly in your, younger years. And she's standing in the kitchen, and it's just like it was yesterday. I'm sitting on the couch, and she's like, Ma, no, because if I say something, then you're gonna, and she immediately was like, you're gonna get upset, you're gonna get mad, you're gonna get angry. And I was like, no. And I'm not a saint, but exactly what I told her was like, hey, no, I'm like Christ on the cross. Give me your best shot. Just be respectful about it, because that part I can't take. I can't take a child yelling at me. God bless y'all who kids are like that. And sometimes, to be honest with you, a lot of them is just you. Our kids are versions of us. I never curse my mom out, curse my dad out, curse my grandmother out, back talk. So I got really back what I gave, but I also got the bad part, which was the, silent treatment, passive aggressive behavior. And that's how I did it, because I wasn't crazy. I was afraid of my mommy and dad. I was afraid of them. They was kind of cuckoo. So I already knew that even if I even tried to get, rowdy with my mother Althea, I would have been 6 feet under right today. Okay. And the same with my dad. My dad wasn't even playing. So the fear, I didn't have the freedom back then to, just express yourself as a child, which, that's a whole nother topic to discuss later on, about how it really affects us as adults, because it keeps us from learning how to express ourselves and also articulate ourselves. And then we have to learn those things later in life. And I told her, I was like, no, I'm going to be here to help you through this process. I'll get a therapist, you'll get a therapist, and then you come to me with any questions you might have about your session to discuss any topics that come up. One of the topics that came up was, of course, what I'm expressing today on this video. And it was, hey, Ma, why do you respond like in a way that's like you lose your cool really quickly? Why do you lose your cool so quickly? Because it's not like I'm like in her face like yelling, but I'm just like, I am raising my voice. I was really short, didn't want to hear. She's like, why are you like that? I'm like, oh, nobody never asked me that question. And I was like, that's how I grew up. I grew up, my mom was that way. I could really express how I felt. Even if I tried to say something, it wasn't heard. It fell on deaf ears. It was just basically a child should be seen and not heard, even as a teenager. With my grandmother, she wasn't so vocal with stuff. I'm just going to speak on a parent's role. So, and then my father wasn't really around as much. Neither was my mom, but she was around more. And so she really was more influential in my life when it came to how I, duplicated how I became, how I was parenting. So I really took the role of my mom on how I parented my daughter, which was, I didn't whoop her, like I said, probably about 2 or 3 times, but I really was, hey, we're not going to discuss whatever it is what I don't agree with. And that was a problem. Just think about that. Not really being able to express yourself in a polite way, and like, hey, this is bothering me. Now you have to, and you don't even have somebody you can talk to. So you're holding that in, which I did as well. And I'm thinking like, dang girl, don't you see how that messed you up? But you don't really think about the patterns. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know if my mom got it from her parents and she just passed it on down, but I did see how my mom and grandmother communicated with each other, and they used to have like this shouting match. I don't even remember my grandmother and my mom hugging each other or saying I love you. Me and my daughter don't have that relationship. When I thought more about it, I'm like, wow, that's pretty sad. But I told her, I said, that is exactly how I was raised. So I didn't know any other way. And I felt like, oh, it worked for me. I got whoopings. I got punished. But, I got a good job. I got this house. I got my daughter who lives with me. She's not living from relative to relative. other than, you know, spending the night to her dad, staying with her dad. Me and her dad did co-parenting, and her grandmother helped out tremendously. She didn't have to worry about, am I gonna, you know, is my mom gonna come pick me up or anything like that. So we were there. It's just emotionally I was absent. I just didn't know how to show up properly. I thought I did through the talks that we would have and the so-called lessons that I used to give her, which she appreciates now. I used to think anything I could think about, I used to use it as a lesson, because what was so important about me changing is that my mom died at 46, my dad died at 41, and I never got a chance to verbally express to them how I felt about my childhood trauma. And with my mom, her grave is here in Tampa. My dad is in Fort Lauderdale. But regarding my mom, I haven't revisited my dad since I buried him in like 99, and I do need to go visit the grave, but I figure he's with me in spirit. When I go to the gravesite, I literally was just healing over a gravesite, and I was like, I don't want that for my daughter. And I always had this big dream of being successful, rubbing shoulders with the best of the best, right? And creating these great relationships with people. And even just relationships I have with my friends, some of my family members. I'm thinking, how much of a hypocrite am I? How much of a fraud would I be for not restoring a relationship with my one and only child, right? I couldn't see that happening. I couldn't see, and I was so afraid of approaching the age of 41 and 46. Again, that's a whole nother video. So when 40 was here and it came, I was like, it was just of urgency to, I let her go at her own pace with healing, but I was like, no, I don't want you crying over my grave. I know how hard that is. I wish I can ask now that I know to ask your parents, hey, what happened to you? Why is it that you did what you did? Why is it that you have these certain behaviors and you pass that on to me? Why is it that you lose your cool? Why is it that you disappear? Why is it that you got addicted to drugs? You know, what caused that? What happened? Because something happened, right? But I didn't know to ask those things. I never heard of a self-help book. What is self-help? Honestly, in my mind, I already felt like I was okay. You know, I felt like I had it together. I didn't feel like I had an issue. That's why it's very important that we don't impose our will on others. When we're on that self-help journey, and if you got this video, it's because you're on that journey and you're seeking to do better. Some people not there yet. I don't care how many motivational videos and how many motivational personal speeches you give them in person or on the phone or on the computer, on your, you know, through a text. Until that person is mentally ready, there's nothing that you can do to make them get on that journey. There's nothing you can do to make them see, hear, feel what you're saying. It's like, oh, okay. And I'm gonna be honest, when they're not ready, I don't know I can't think of the phrase. I got to look up some quotes. But when they're not ready, it feels like an attack. Oh, it feels like a personal attack. What you say? You think you better than me? You think I'm not a good parent? Oh, you know, so you are like your stuff don't stink, you know. Meanwhile, most of them have great intentions. Most of them like, dang, I don't want her to mess up her relationship further with her daughter. And I just wanted to get on to say, sometimes you just have to hold your tongue. Because I remember a lot of times, you know, my sister would say, dang, you're not going to say nothing about, it'll be certain scenarios or situations that come up. And she would ask me was I going to say anything to my daughter, and I'm like, nah, that's me. Like, I started seeing myself. That's why I thank God so much for my daughter. Like, God is so intentional about our lives. He know I needed my daughter to be able to see myself, to do better, to see my parents as human beings, as people. Like, this one child helped me to do that. See myself wanting to do better, not being perfect, but definitely wanting to do a whole lot better. And yeah, it's been a whole journey, and it's been ups and downs, twists and turns, as I put in my post, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I really wouldn't. I'm so grateful. It's like, through the experience with her, it's helped me to be better with people. When people go to acting crazy, even when I see these videos, and even if the video is with the intention to make a person look like a villain and then a bad guy, I'm like, what happened to them? What's their relationship like with their parents? Who raised them? You know, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, oh man, I would never do. I hardly ever say I would never do that, because as Maya Angelou says, that anything that is human we could possibly do. And I could be like botching that quote up, but basically, even someone who does the worst of the worst crime, if they're a human being, oh, that seed is somewhere within you. Now, whether we act on it or whether it's activated or come to our mind, and it's like, well, I don't even think like that. That's great. It doesn't mean that you would never do it, because a human being did it.